We are 4 versus 2. It's not a good look for these guys. Just saying. Guys, it's your girl Sierra. Welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be interesting. I actually got the inspiration from one of my YouTubers, my Degrassi YouTubers, Unusually Eric. I will credit him below, and obviously mentioning him. He brought up a very interesting question in his recent rewatch of Degrassi, and his question was, if any of the girls on Degrassi had to choose someone over someone else, and that he really didn't see that. He really saw that more with the guys. So that made me very interested to actually figure that out. So that's what this video is about. I'm technically going to break it down by season. There's some overlap, obviously, because, you know, with episodes, things, the story carries over to the next season. But essentially, that's what we're going to be doing for this video. And what I mean by terms of picking someone over somebody, I'm not sure exactly what he meant by it, but this is how I'm going to analyze it for this study. Either they picked someone to date over somebody and they intentionally did the decision, actively saying like, no, I want to be with him instead of being with you, that type of thing. So we're going to break this down season by season. So starting off with season 1, we don't really have anything. I don't even need to look at my notes for that part because we're just really introduced to the characters. They have their own mini situations, but no one's really actively choosing to date someone over someone else. Like, we know that Spinner is into Terry and Paige is into Spinner, but it's not like Spinner is picking between them essentially. So I'm not really counting that because he's into Terry. He never really thought about Paige like that, but Paige put herself in front of him. He's like, I guess. Like, I don't know what's wrong with Terry, but he's still into her. So we're not counting that, but we're still introduced to the characters. So moving on to season 2, we do get one instance, and that is when Paige picks to go out with Dean instead of going out with Spinner. That is an area of intent. She actually chose to go on a date with somebody else instead of going out with person A or person B. Let's go with that. So she chose to go out with person A instead of going out with person B. That's an active choice that she made. Jumping to season 3, we have an active choice that Craig makes. And Craig sleeps with Manny, and he picks to be with her by the holiday episode, even though he was with Ashley at the time. He was playing both of them. He intently slept with Manny despite being with Ashley, and he chose to pick Manny by the end. I forgot. Joey, Jeremiah, and Caitlin, and I forgot the other girl's name. That also counts as another one too, because yeah, he pretty much was still deeply connected to Caitlin, and then chose Caitlin over, I forgot her name, but y'all will help me remember. But yeah, that's another one too. So at the end, I'm probably going to have to do a voiceover for that part. Intent. Jumping to season 4. We actually have a few instances. I'm going to start off with the one instance, and this is on the girl side. And that is Manny tries to get a new guy's attention when Spinner's being an idiot. Because Manny is actively dating Spinner, but she is trying to get the attention of somebody else. She's actively trying to choose someone else's attention over her current boyfriend. That's the example. Now going to the guy's side, we actually have quite a bit. We have Spinner essentially dumping Paige to be with Manny because they were being flirty. That's when Craig snaps a picture of them like flirting. And then after Paige sees the picture, essentially Spinner picks to be with Manny. Like, he chooses to break up with Paige and get with Manny. That's an active choice that Spinner makes. Craig dumps Manny and goes back to Ashley. That is an active choice he makes. And that is after the whole abortion situation. He chooses to go back to Ashley. That's an obvious choice that he makes. Even though Ashley may not have been pining for him, he still actively chose to leave someone to go back to somebody else. Also, this is the time when Snake cheats on Spike. He actively chooses to make out with Hatzalakos when he's married. Clock that. That's 3. I'm counting him. Even though he is an adult, it is still an active decision of choosing someone over someone else. The results may vary, obviously, But already, we are 4 versus 2. It's not a good look for these guys. Just saying. Let's jump to season 5. Season 5, there is no story of anyone picking someone else. Lord of mercy. Hold on. SpongeBob started playing on its own. So we don't get anything for season 5. Jump to season 6. Emma chooses Sean over Peter after the whole driving and the drug incident with Sean. That's counting the entire situation that was going on. She actively chose to be with Sean over Peter. She breaks up with Peter to be with Sean and to support Sean in this very troubling time because Sean is in jail. And we know how Emma feels about Sean. She don't play about her man, regardless if that's her man or not. She don't play about him. On the other side, JT dumps Liberty. This is pretty much after Liberty gives their baby up for adoption and he starts to date Nia. You see that? All right. Season 7. There's nothing on the girl side because there's no one actively choosing someone over someone else. But on the opposite side of that, because this is when we get the whole Manny, Emma, Liberty situation, Damien is the one that decided to mess with Liberty while dating Emma. He made that conscious choice. The girls were not actively choosing someone over someone else. And Damien was doing that by being with Emma and making out with Liberty in the back of the pool house. Just saying. And I think they fooled around before. But either way, he intentionally made that decision to do that. Jumping to season 8, there is nothing there. Nothing I can find. So there's nothing there for season 8. Jumping to season 9. Now this is where it gets a little bit complicated. Jane does cheat on Spinner with Declan. That is an active decision that she makes. Now going to the guy's side, KC picks Jenna despite dating Claire. He's flirting with her and he chooses to break up with Claire to be with Jenna. That's an active choice he makes. Drew cheats on Allie with Bianca in the boiler room. That is an active choice he makes. Here's one that's a little bit muddled. Sav toys with an interest in Farrah while being with Anya. I gave that half a point because he didn't obviously say, I'm breaking up with Anya to be with Farrah, but he starts to see the appeal of the arranged marriage with Farrah. So that's where we're giving that a half point. There is some intent on it. He is still intentionally being interested in her. He finds her very attractive. He's like, oh, I haven't seen her in years. Like, oh my God. But once he sees her, he's like, she look kind of good. But he's not actively being like, oh, I want to be with you. But there is some level of intent. There's some interest there. So that's why there's a half a point. Jumping to season 10. Jenna attempts to gets to Sav. That's half a point. Because obviously Sav is like, I ain't with you like that. I'm just being nice. He pitied her. But Jenna clearly tried to do what she normally does, which is steal other people's men. And she actively tried to get with Sav. She tried to get with Sav, but Sav wasn't with it. But Jenna wasn't picking him over somebody. Well, technically she was picking him over KC, even though she wasn't with KC. So technically that is still half a point. Because she wasn't with KC, but still she had emotional and physical ties to KC, and she chose to get with Sav instead of pretty much solving all her shit going on because she was fucking pregnant. So I'm still canonized at half a point. On the other side, Dave dumps another girl to get with Allie. I forgot her name. The tall girl. Anyway, that's what Dave does. Which Dave we're not going to talk about it. We're going to wrap that up at the end. Jumping to season 11. I am not going to count Bianca dating Vince because she did not actively choose to do that because she's interested in him. She felt like she had to do that to keep Drew safe. As much as I don't like Bianca, that is one thing I will not add to this. She did not intentionally do that to be like, I want to be with him. She did it as a means of protecting Drew. So we're not counting that. I did want to point that out though. Dave, though, he does cheat on Allie with Jacinta. He actively chose to be physical, be intimate with somebody else. He didn't want to tell Allie, but he actively did that. He actively, intently made that decision to do what he did. Jumping to season 12. Maya chooses to be with Cam despite having feelings for Zig. I will give that a point. Because, literally, if Tori and Zig just had one fight, I feel like Maya and Zig would have been together sooner. But Maya, she tried to stand by some of her morals, at least somewhat. But she did she was really interested in Zig, and they actually ended up kissing. So technically that is a point, because she actually intentionally acted upon that by kissing him. But she decided to be with Cam instead. On the other side, here's Drew again. Drew dumps Katie and chooses to be with Bianca. That is an active choice that he made, because Drew's an idiot. Season 13. Maya struggles between Zig and Miles, and by season 14 she decides to be with Zig. So this is like season 13, 14. I'm combining it because it rolls over a little bit. But that is an active choice that she does make, because she's starting to have feelings for Zig while he's living at her house, and she's trying to help him through the whole gang situation. And she breaks up with Miles, or at least he breaks up with her. Still, there is that relationship that ends because Miles is doing the absolute most at this point. And Miles like, nope, I can't do this. And she's interested in Zig, and she gets with Zig anyway. So that's a point. Another point, Claire breaks up with Eli to be with Drew. Now, there's that muddled part of the fact that it was over voicemail, but she actively did end the relationship. Now, what she should have waited for was for Eli to hear that voicemail, but she didn't. She slept with Drew, though. That's an intent. That's her intentionally making that decision to be with person A over person B, or at least be intimate with person B. That's part of the criteria. And then on the other side, Eli kissed Lenore. Eli actively chose to be intimate in some level with somebody else that is not his girlfriend. That is the intention behind it. Season 14, nothing. And then when we get to Degrassi Next Class, there are some instances, but we're not going to count that because it's the Netflix version, and it's just whatever. I don't really care. I mean, there's also some points that are valid, because there are some points that are kind of valid. But at the same time, I don't know. I just don't feel like it. I don't feel like including Next Class. But totaling it up, the instances where girls chose person A over person B with intention is 7 out of 7.5 points. Now the guys, from choosing person A over person B with intent, is 12.5. The numbers don't lie. The guys were actively choosing, actively having to choose, or actively making shitty decisions pretty much to be with someone else over someone else. Actively making decisions that affected another person instead of just being honest at the very beginning. That just goes to show that both parties have been the bad guy in each other's lives. They have been that person to ultimately break someone's heart. But the guys are almost double the amount of the girls. So, statistically proving, it's the guys that do the absolute most when it comes to this situation.
Really? Say, congratulations, you played yourself.
But I hope you all enjoyed that video and that little tally. If you wanted to see the notes, I literally just I wrote them very haphazardly. It's just a mess. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video and this actual statistical analysis of Degrassi. Editing Sierra here. Also to point out, a lot of these characters are the same ones that have constantly chose someone else over someone else. And that's mainly Drew, KC, are the main ones. Drew, KC, and Craig. Those are the main ones that do this back and forth thing. So if it wasn't for them and doing the absolute most, maybe, possibly, it would have been an even number. But these men, these boys, decided to do the absolute most and pick and choose girls over one another and do the absolute most and have girls end up pretty much fighting each other over these men, over these boys, which was so unnecessary. But anyway, that's just another point. If you like this video, be sure to like it. Comment below. I don't know, something about Degrassi. Until next time, stay magical. Bye.